I am young.
Yeah.
I am 44 years.
You're very young. I mean, and you're a professor.
Well, it's by the grace of God.
Right. So you can be I know you're very religious because in the morning when I wake up, the first place I want to go, three of you, Mrs. Charlotte Osei, and another friend of mine, the three of you constantly, religious messages, Bible quotations.
Yeah, but that's the way to go. Everything we do on earth doesn't matter.
I come there because that's where I draw my inspiration for the day from. Good. I'm telling you, it's not something I would have told you ordinarily.
Good. You to read the Bible yourself and constitute your own messages.
No, I want to summarize. I want to summarize.
Stop being a second-hand Christian. Relying on people's
I'm a hypocritical messages. Christian, trust me. So that's why I come to. And it just tells me one thing, that you are prayerful, religious, spiritual. You believe in God. 44 years, you are a professor.
I'm not a professor. I'm an associate professor.
An associate professor.
Yes, I mean, I have to make it clear. I mean, if you call me professor, if I become full professor, what would you call me? You are a lecturer, a senior lecturer, associate professor before full professor. Right. I haven't got into professorship yet. Okay, yes, I'm the associate professor.
So you're an associate professor.
Yes, please.
Right, and you had your first degree in Ghana.
Yes.
And then you traveled.
Yes.
Okay, then you got your master's.
Yes.
And then you got your PhD.
Yes.
And at what age did you get your PhD?
I think I was 34.
Goodness, that was a very young age.
By the grace of God.
Yes. So, I mean, you talk about the grace of God. By the grace of God, can I acquire a degree, a master's, and a PhD in 4 months?
It is an absurdity that anybody would want to throw out there. And again, I keep saying that some of these people, they say these things because they know that a lot of you people are ignorant. You don't know. Maybe it's not a PhD that I did some. Whoever is saying that he got what? Masters.
A degree,
a masters and PhD in 4 months. Tell him that me, Ransford Gyampo, I'm saying he's spewing an absurdity. That is not possible.
Even with the grace of God.
No, you see, the grace of God does not fund illogicality. When I was in level 200, my professor, when I was studying Introduction to Religious Studies, my professor, the late Reverend Professor J.N. Kudaji, he told us that God cannot, and he put cannot in inverted commas, God cannot do things that are logically impossible unless he wants to do a miracle. The PhD business, the Doctor of Philosophy enterprise, it has no room for miraculous features or miraculous feats. It is you struggling and going through the canons of empirical research methodologies and learning and reading and researching and doing all manner of things, before you get there. So it is not a child's play. I've seen, that is not, everybody is holding, every pastor who cannot even speak English has a PhD, is Reverend Dr. So and so. Pastors who cannot even string one set. I don't know whether you have PhDs in trees or you use vernacular to conduct, research and write, PhD outcomes or whatever, PhD research outcome. But the point is, people who cannot even string simple sentences together. They say we are Reverend Dr. So and so, and you don't know. And some people are also
how about the honorary?
Some people are also recipients of honorary degree, and those honorary awards are, strictly speaking, not supposed to be used.
Absolutely.
Okay, but
people don't know.
People pride themselves as I'm Dr. So and so. I'm Dr. So and so. You see, we cannot. You don't cheapen things like that. Okay, when people are struggling, and you see the PhD journey, especially if you do it in Africa, it's a journey that you go through. You cannot even see the end of the tunnel until you are done. Okay, it's a serious business. And so when I see people telling us that you used 4 months and then you are mentioning God here, okay, the PhD enterprise has no room for miracles. It is practical. It is practical work, hard work, research, empirical research work, grounded. You're talking about the doctor of philosophy of a discipline. It's no child's play. If anybody wants to take on the title, you can as well just take, because like I said, everybody who has, people who have churches in 3-member churches. Your flock, your congregation, just 3 people, 5 people, they call themselves Reverend Doctor. You can go on to take it, but don't tell me that You went through the processes, got a first degree, second degree, and third degree in 4 months, and you say it's God. God does miracle, but not a PhD miracle.
Well, but he's God.
Well, I mean,
If he decides
I'm saying
that-
that God, you see, God cannot, in inverted commas, God cannot do things that are logically impossible. You haven't worked, and you are sitting down that you are praying that all of a sudden some monies would get into your bank account because God is a God of miracles.
Maybe a transfer gone wrong
Please,
ends up
I
in your
mean,
account.
let's not fund some of these things. They are things that can be perpetrated only among an ignorant population. Okay, but gradually Ghanaians are being are getting some enlightenment and all that, and so let us not spew that much of ignorance.
Okay, but what is it with Africans and titles? Have you wondered why?
Well, I don't know, but
Okay, before you answer, because this issue that we are talking about, and the title was Dean, Professor, Doctor. I mean, you are an academia. Is it possible?
Dean, what?
So
Dean, Professor, Doctor.
Dean, Professor, Doctor Ransford Gyampo. Is it?
But is a dean to a title?
And let me be with you.
No, you see, whoever did that was just spewing was just spewing ignorance. Okay, the dean is a position. This is just like being a head of department. If you come to the school, University of Ghana, where I work, you have a dean of the Faculty of Social Studies. Okay, it is he controls the heads within the faculty. So the head of political science department is under him. The head of psychology is under him. The head of geography is under him, and the head of all those heads come together. And then if you put all these departments together, they are headed by a dean. Okay, so it's a position. It's not a title.
Right.
That's one. And so for somebody to say, I am the dean, professor, doctor, so and so, the person is spewing complete ignorance, and the person knows that you don't know. They tell these things who quickly use religion as opium of the masses. They themselves are not willing to study for themselves. So you tell them, and people are so gullible, they swallow them hook, line, and sinker. But tell those people that Ghana is not inhabited by only ignorant people.
There are discerning people, men of intellect in our country. Anyway, let me move you away. You seem very, and I knew I would get this reaction from you because you take your professorship and your academic work seriously. How about same sex? It's also come up. I mean, it's contentious. LGBT. Yes.
Okay. No. Well, the contention that came as a result of the discussion of that is understandable. Let me tell you this. There are 4 stages of democratic progression in every country. A country moves from authoritarianism to an electoral democracy to liberal democracy to advanced liberal democracy. Right. Ghana was under an authoritarian rule during, if you like, Kwame Nkrumah's time, during Jerry Rawlings's time, during all the military dictatorships. And you see, every stage of democratic progression has its own human rights that can be realized. Under authoritarianism, there are no human rights. The rights that you have are the rights that the leader allows, but you cannot assert any right. Then you move on from authoritarian stage to an electoral or transitional democratic state. So Ghana now is an electoral or a transitional democracy. Okay. In an electoral or transitional democracy, you have only one kind of right that is emphasized. We call it political rights. So it is in electoral democracies that periodic elections are undertaken or are held. Right. Now, take note of this. The elections that are held in transitional democracies are held periodically, but we don't talk about whether they are free or fair. Okay. Their freeness or fairness is not something we talk about. Okay. It is in transitional democracy that people assert their political right to free speech, the right to join political parties, the right to form political parties, and all those political rights. These are upheld only in transitional democracy. In transitional democracy, ECOSOC rights are economic, social, and cultural rights. These ECOSOC rights,
Right.
economic, social, and cultural rights, they are rights that are not developed. They are either non-existent or they are not developed at all.
Okay.
So
an example would be?
in transitional democracies, you cannot. You have it's your right. You have a right to employment, but you don't have people asserting that, taking the government to court and saying that I got done with school, you have not employed me, and so I'm suing you and all that. If you do that, people will cry and people. So
Right.
economic, social, and cultural rights, they are either non-existent or they are not developed. So that's why in our part of the world, the kind of right that we assert so much, hey, we want to vote. We want, whether the elections are free or fair, we don't care. But we want to vote. And we have the right to criticize the government, right to free speech, right to join political parties. And so you have the proliferation of amorphous election machines, not political parties. Mali has over 104 political parties. Ghana, we are getting to about 30 political parties. But out of these 30 political parties, 28 of them are mere election machines. They are not political parties. Only the MPP or NDC. Even the MPP and NDC, if the Electoral Commission would want to we would want to focus on holistically on its role, then even the NDC and MPP will struggle to be called political parties.
Why?
There are so many rules that the Electoral Commission has reduced itself to an organization that is only interested in compiling voters register and conducting elections. But they have other regulatory roles that they are supposed to be performing. And they've been deficient and incompetent in performing those roles since the days of Kojo Afarijan. They are supposed to be regulating political parties to ensure that those existing are worth their salt. They have their branches in certain areas, of the country. They render their accounts. They do what is expected. They have so many. Political parties are supposed to function as number one. You see, the conduct of election or presenting candidates to contest election is just about 2% of the functions of political parties. They are supposed to perform functions as agents of interest aggregation, agents of interest articulation, agents of political socialization, agents for the recruitment and training of future political leaders, and they are also supposed to be presenting candidates for election. They are supposed to be performing the function as credible opposition with the view to keeping government on their toes. Even in other advanced countries, you have political parties tasked with the role of undertaking research. When there's national crisis, they undertake research with the view to making their findings available to the government, saying that we also undertook research on COVID-19, and this, we feel that these are all functions of political parties that the regulator, being the Electoral Commission, is supposed to ensure that they are done. But our Electoral Commission is only interested in compiling new voters register, whether we like it or not, and then holding elections. And they have abandoned their regulatory function. And that all speaks to the fact that we are just a transitional democracy. And the only human right that is so much known and pervasive within the stage of democratic progression which we find ourselves is political rights. So, like I said, it is within economic, social, and cultural rights that you can find LGBT. You move on after we have practiced democracy in our current state. After we've practiced electoral democracy for about, 50 to 100 more years, we will naturally move towards another stage of democratic progression we call liberal democracy. Now, in liberal democracy, number one, political rights are fully developed. Here, elections that are held are, number one, seamless. Okay. Number one, elections are seamless.
So currently our elections are not seamless.
No, our elections are not seamless. You see, when I was in the U.S.
Was the last election?
No. When I was in the U.S. schooling, that was when 2008. That was when Barack Obama was contesting. So I went to tell my professor, Per Robbins, you said we are having elections here, and he said yes, but I'm not seeing people fighting. I'm not seeing people doing all manner of things. And I said, well, elections are seamless here. In our part of the world, anytime there's going to be elections, people are storing water. People are storing palm oil. People are storing gari, and people get into the bush. Yes way, GNO, the peace industry.
The peace.
Because we fear democratic relapse. So our elections are not similar. But in liberal democratic countries, you hold elections, and it's not a big deal. That's number one. And it's not just election. The elections are also free, fair, peaceful, and transparent. And then still in liberal democracies, all other rights, economic, social, and cultural rights, are fully developed. When you practice liberal democracy for the next about 100 more years, you go to advanced liberal democracy. Okay, everything in advanced liberal democracy is perfected, but the distinguishing feature or the line of demarcation or what distinguishes an advanced liberal democracy from a liberal democracy is that in advanced liberal democracy, human beings there sometimes claim ownership and access to certain human rights way beyond human reason and human imagination of the people who live in other democratic phases.
Right.
So that it is there that you can say that you have the right to all freedoms. It is there. The rejection and the uproar against these LGBTs is understandable because where we find ourselves in the stage of democratic progression, it's only political rights that is so common to us. ECOSOC right is not common, and so I'm not surprised that people rejected it and there was that much public outcry. But when I say this, then people ask, so does that mean that Baum is one day we'll get there? But you see, I don't want to answer the question, but what I want to say is that I believe that for every society worth its salt to be called society, it must have standard. When we say this is a society, what makes society is that it has standard. And so everybody knows that the standard place of putting food is in the mouth. So if you go and somebody is eating and is putting the food in his armpit and say, dough is sweet, dough is sweet, and then you ask and say, I have the right to put food everywhere that I like, it is either the person is mad or the person does not qualify to be a member of that society.
Right. I mean, I've been educated. I love the stages that you took us through with this democracy. Would you say that the 2020 election was fair?
Well, free and fair. I mean, number one, the 2020 elections, the processes before the declaration of results, in my view, were credible processes. I mean, we all went to vote, and it didn't take much time. But it appears that it's the coalition processes that we had, different issues coming up, shooting incidents, and all manner of things coming up, coupled with the fact that the Electoral Commission made some mistakes and in a declaration of results and all that got us into court. So there were challenges. There were real challenges. There were allegations of vote pardon. The Electoral Commission, the opposition wanted the Electoral Commission to explain the basis for changing results or make the mistakes that were made and how they were changed and all that. And then there were also cases where you could tell that the Electoral Commission was so much in a hurry to declare results. And you see, I know that passing of exam, you see, when we were in school, we were told that passing of exam is dependent on speed and accuracy. And so you want to declare the results very quickly, but you must also make sure that you declare only accurate results. And then one thing I also realized was that the Electoral Commission could not put to full use the various avenues it had to resolve conflict before those escalated, and then for people to want to go to court. And I'm of the view that some of these things, if they happen, it's not just about always going to court. If there are avenues to dialogue for the purpose of resolving problems before, so that court cases do not come in, I think the sensible thing to do is to use those avenues.
Right. Okay. I want to talk about you. I mean, you just decided when you were young that I want to be a teacher. I want to teach. I mean, when we are young, what do you want to do? I want to be a doctor, a lawyer, this, that.
I think but you didn't say that the interview is about me. Why do you? I mean, I think I just got in there. I will say purely by accident. when I got done with the first degree, I thought I was too young to even think about working.
Right.
And so I wanted to do masters. And doing masters, I know I didn't have anybody to pay the fees for me. So there was this man, Mr. Jonas Nikwe, that I went to talk to. I'm sure somebody's children will tell him. He's an old man now. Lives around Medina Land, Quantanai. Right. He sells land. He used to sell land. I went to tell him that I don't have anybody to pay my fees. And don't forget, my father was a refugee was part of FWK Akufu's government. And when Rawlings came to overthrow that regime, so he had to flee and all that. So he was minding his own business there. So I know I went to tell Mr. Nikwe that I needed money to pay school fees, and I didn't have money, and he just gave me the money. And then when I was going, and the MPhil in my time, people were spending 3 to 4 years doing it. But when I did the first year, and I went back to Mr. Nikwe to collect another money for the second year. The second year, I could see that I went there on 2 or 3 occasions, and I realized that it was difficult. And so when I got the money, I felt that, look, if I don't do this thing, I don't focus and concentrate and just get this done, I'm not sure of getting somebody to pay my fees for me when I get into a 3rd year. So that was the motivation that pushed me into working hard to getting my thesis, done. And so when I was done, I think within the record time of the 2 years, I think the university decided to give me the opportunity to be a lecturer. And in our time, you could become a lecturer after MPhil, but then you'll be given some time to do the PhD. And so that's how come. So I became a lecturer with just an MPhil, and then I was given the opportunity to teach and then to also be doing the PhD. So that's how come. So maybe it was poverty that got me into
I trust you to bring in humor. I trust you to do that. But you enjoy teaching.
Yes, I didn't know I would enjoy it, but I think you see,
a lot of your students are listening, and someone says, ask Professor Gyampo why he likes to resit.
Why I like to do what?
Resit.
Well, it is you get some joy knowing that you've been able to research into something, and you've even published that information in a journal outside, and you are speaking these issues to students. And you go to the lecture hall so much prepared, the things you are talking about, you know what you are talking. Some of the students are very smart. Some would read ahead of the class, and they will come to the lecture hall.
Were you that kind of student?
Oh, when I was a very tiny boy, so when I was a student, I was just always minding my business and all that. Yeah. So some will come, and if you are not well read, they can even come and dribble you. And the fact that you're a lecturer does not mean you know it all. I mean, I've read a student's essay. I stopped and started clapping because I thought that it contained a lot of well-researched information that I didn't even know. I don't know it all. So we keep reading. In fact, the higher you go in academia, the more you know nothing.
Really?
Yeah. Because to be able to write, you must, if you see somebody who is an academic knows it all, it means the person actually doesn't know what it means to be an academic. Because to be able to write, you should have read other people's work. Okay, look at the loopholes in other people's work with a view to filling those loops. So as I read your work, and as I read his work, I get to, but there's this man who has also read. Then there's this guy who has also written. There's this guy who has. So the more you want to go there, the more you know that other people have done things that you don't know. So the more you climb, the more you know that you don't know anything. That's why I call myself Ransford Gyampo and not Professor Ransford Gyampo. It's you who call me Professor Ransford Gyampo. Because I know people who are well read and who are well schooled, who are well researched, and even them. See me.
So you're not one of those who kick a fuss if I called you Ransford Gyampo?
Please call me Ransford Gyampo. I don't mind.
Yeah?
I mean,
that's strange.
Call me 𝐻𝐈𝐕𝐄.
Oh, yeah.
No, I don't mind because people taught me, and those who taught me, they are there. They are well renowned. It's just that I like talking. That's why you hear more of me. Today I was talking to one of my mentors, Professor 𝐋𝐈𝐕𝐄 this morning. I was talking to him. I said, Prof, but you people discovered me, you mentored me, you trained me and all that. You see, they are minding their own business and all that. The fact that if you hear me talking, it means I receive training from people who know better than I do.
Right.
And so they are there.
Yeah.
So we
Do you have siblings? Are they also, professors and doctors?
Well, I have siblings, step
siblings. Okay.
siblings. I've only one brother, the same mother, the same father, but then I have step people. Some are actuarial scientists, some are.
So it runs through the family.
Oh, an actuarial scientist is a serious mathematician.
It is, statistician, right? They do statistics and all.
Yeah. 𝐋𝐈𝐕𝐄 Gyampo is in the US. He's an actuarial scientist, and some others some are lawyers, some are also teachers and all
Right.
that. But they are step.
And your parents are both around?
Yes.
Yeah.
Sometimes I get a bit scared. My father is 87, and he's very old and frail.
So you get scared?
I want him to live more, and I don't want him to die now. But sometimes
you mentioned that he went into exile. So did you have a relationship all that while when he?
No,
when
we
he
didn't
left?
have a relationship. It's only we started having our relationship later on, and I think because I'm a Christian, I also believe that the fact that he wasn't around toughened me, and so I've seen it all. It toughened me, and so I don't hold grudges. In fact, I like him, and we get on.
I remember when President Rawlings passed, may his soul rest in perfect peace. We had a phone conversation about him and then your dad.
Yeah.
And you had mixed feelings then, didn't you?
Yeah, I wanted to. I will tell you the truth and without hiding it. Jerry Rawlings, I admire Rawlings more than all other past presidents of Ghana, and I thought that I liked him. I like his guts, his charismatism, the fact that he's willing to fix problems as and when he finds them without going through needless bureaucratic bottlenecks and all that. I like him. And so when he died, I thought of writing something nice about him. In fact, I was just thinking about it. So one day I was just sitting with my father, just putting my thoughts together, and he started talking about Rawlings. That you see, the relationship that hasn't thrived so much between you and I is because of Rawlings, because I had to run away and leave him. My father has been in the UK. He's a UK citizen for 42 years. When he was leaving, I was 2 years.
Wow.
Okay, and so.
And what age did you see him again?
I think I saw him again in 1995.
Wow.
So, and because of health reasons and all that, he can't stay in Ghana for long. I mean, I keep telling him, why won't you come and stay in Ghana? Once I visited him in UK, and then I picked an argument with him that he should come to Ghana. We'll take care of him and all that. So we're just sitting down there as we were talking. He just pressed a certain knob on his table, and then a voice came, "Hello, Mr. Gyampo, do you want us to come for you?" And I said, what is this? He said, this is a call that went straight into the emergency room of the Queen's Hospital. Na me bagana na me yarea, ehina mo de me fa. That's the question.
You got everybody laughing on the floor.
That's the question he asked me. And that was when I thought about, you see, when somebody is sick and there is an emergency, you see, in Ghana, if you don't have a little name, the person will die on your hands. I tell you, that is when it's not about money. You may even be carrying the money, but the person will die and all that. So he asked this question: if I come to Ghana and I'm not well, and you have to rush me, where will you send me to? And all that. So I think that's why he prefers to stay there. And he's told us that if he dies there, they should bury him there. If he dies here, we should bury him here.
Right. And which primary school did you attend?
I attended a primary school, Roman Catholic primary school in Saltpond.
Right. Yes, you're from Saltpond.
Yeah, I'm from Saltpond. You see, I'm supposed to be from Latte. My father is an Equiapem.
Okay.
My mother is from Salt Pond.
Okay.
But because my father left us, so we had
So
to
you
go
identify
to,
more with
we had to
Salt
go to
Pond.
the Salt Pond bit, and so that's where I was. I went to my Catholic primary school and in Salt Pond for some time. Then I moved from there to Medina, where I attended the Calvary International School. I went to Calvary from class 4 to class 6. And then from class 6, I was jumped straight to secondary school from 1.
You were that bright.
I don't think so. I don't think. I
You're
don't
so
think
modest.
so. No, I don't think so, because I suffered. I suffered whilst my view is that you should allow the child to grow into the various classes. I think I suffered. I was never among the best students.
So why were you moved to GHS?
I don't know. I didn't write a common entrance.
You didn't write a common entrance.
I was just jumped from class 6 to. There's a secondary school in Osu called Osu Salem Secondary School.
Yes,
that's
I
where
know
I went for Form 1. I was in Form 1I. You can just imagine. Form 1A, Form 1B, Form 1C, up to Form 1I. So I went there for first year, 19.
Form 1I.
Form 1I, yes.
That's a lot of.
Yeah, a lot of Form 1s.
Classes.
Yeah, Form 1I, I remember. So I was there in 1988. Then I moved from there to come to the best secondary school in West Africa. That's West Africa Secondary School, WAS. Yes.
Can you sing the anthem?
Yeah. Somebody told me you may ask me a question I may not be able to answer. I said, but you, who are you? You cannot ask me a question that I can. But it's been long, I've forgotten. Wazarians,
well,
please forgive me.
I just asked you a question you couldn't answer.
You see, but I was not, when I was in WAS, I was, you see,
you were a quiet child.
Yeah, I was a very small boy. You know, growing up, there used to be people who were smallish but were grown. I was smallish and I was young.
Right.
Okay, so there were several things I never took seriously. I think I became a serious student only when I got to the university.
Yeah?
Yeah, I mean, I was never.
You're blessed. I mean, you've got to be an intelligent student to be able to.
I don't think so. It's been the grace of God.
Yeah.
It's been the grace of God.
Yeah. It's this grace of God that I'm also praying for, so I can do my PhD.
You've had grace of God always on your life, from wherever you've been to wherever you are.
Who would you say was your favorite teacher?
Where?
Wherever you have been, there must be one teacher. I have one teacher who has stood out for me all my life.
Okay, so
actually two.
So Idi Koko was my teacher in Calvary.
Oh, the Idi Koko,
yes, Augustine
actor.
Abbey. Yeah, he was my teacher.
Was he always funny?
Yes, that was he was somewhat funny.
Somewhat.
Yes, he used to cane us. Idi Koko and Mr. Pia. Mr. Pia is dead. Idi Koko, I'm told, is dead. He taught us in Calvary, and if fast forward to secondary school, there were quite a number of them. In the university, there were quite a number. If I want to mention names, I mean, I may make mistakes. But then I think that in a primary school, Idi Koko taught me. Yeah, Augustine Abbey.
And then you saw him on the screens acting.
Yeah, we were in school when he started acting.
Right.
Yeah, when he started.
So
acting.
How did the students feel? Were you laugh? Did you have a laugh?
I mean, he discouraged me. Maybe he doesn't know. He discouraged me once. I know that he was trying when we were in school, class 5 or class 6. He was trying to groom some people to go and act. And then as there was supposed to be a play or there was supposed to be a function. And as part of the function, people were supposed to be acting plays, and then some were also supposed to be reciting poems. So he said anybody who has a poem should come and recite. Then I raised my hand. What poem? I said, Petai Papa. Petai Papa, the moment I said, come on, go and sit down. Sacked me to go and sit down.
I would have sacked you too.
And I remember I cried and my people,
so that's why you abandoned that. You just felt, that's not for me.
My people, my mates were always making fun of me, but I mean, it's okay.
Are you in touch with your mates from secondary school? Some of them?
No, I'm in touch with my mates even in Calvary. Primary school, primary school, secondary school.
You're very social then?
Yeah. These WhatsApp platforms, they are there. So I'm in touch with my mates in primary school and in secondary school. But strangely, mates in universities don't really form WhatsApp groups. I think the schooling system, people prefer
The
the
yeah,
lower schooling
yeah.
system to the higher
Yeah.
whatever. So my mates in primary school, we are still, in fact, we are always
Do you
together.
remember your first crush?
Gloria, Victoria, and Apia. Yes, I remember.
Where is she?
She's- yeah.
You remember the full name?
Yeah, she's in Sweden. I mean, those days that they say she's your girlfriend and you two, you are stealing money from your parents and they give you money and you go and give it to
You are giving the girl to
you go and buy
the money
Alewa and give it to her
Yeah.
and all that.
did she know you had a crush on her?
I don't know. I mean, maybe she knows. I mean, sometimes we talked, but the point is, it was those childhood things. I know that she used to attend Fancyman Girls Primary.
Right, in Salt
And
Pond,
in Salt
definitely.
Pond, yeah.
Fancyman,
So they would come and park, their bus will park at a place called Mkantanan. And then I'll go and stand there with my Alewa in my hand. So when she sits in the car, I'll give her an Alewa.
I'm trying to picture it. I'm trying to picture it. That's so funny. But she's around. You see her.
Yes, I
Yeah.
mean recently, just over the weekend, I went to my hometown and she's there.
You go there a lot. You go to Salt.
But that's where I come from.
Yeah.
I'm a proud Salt Pond person. I'm
Yeah.
from Prabio A31.
I mean, I admire that.